Hi, I'm with Jessica Lynn, the famous educator, famous activist, global ambassador from Kinsley'a Institute, and expert for Oxford University.
To a certain extent.
Yes. Jessica is the keynote speaker at this year's LGBT plus Diamonds Awards, and she gave a wonderful speech about her life, about her experiences, about how the world should be. Yes, let me ask you, because you travel the world.
Yeah.
Only this year you will have been in all 5 continents. Not in Australia, but
yeah.
But all other 5. I have this simple question. Even at the most progressive places, the world is at best harsh for trans community. How to change the world?
Forgive me, how is the changing in the world towards the community? You okay? Most people, believe it or not, when I travel the world, most people are open and accepting when I speak to them. You know, I do a lot of work in South Africa, and there was a lot of harsh communication saying it's a very negative community. But once you come in there and you say, "Hi, my name is Jessica, this is who I am," it breaks down that barrier. You know, the presentation, the slide didn't work last night, but I use a slide called, and it says, it's hard to hate someone whose story you know. So that's what I really, really try to do, is just to say, I'm just a normal, everyday person. So I happen to be transgender. So I happen to have blonde hair. So you happen to have green eyes. It's just part of who I am. It's part of who we are. Let's celebrate that. So I have found more and more acceptance around the world than I have found more negativity. So I've been to places like Turkey. I've been here so many times to Poland. I've spoken in Ukraine. So many different places around the world: Israel, Cyprus, South Africa, Thailand, Japan. Most people are accepting, and that is one of the most beautiful things about it. There is a lot of negativity towards the transgender community where I come from in America, where I live in England, but overall people are good. That's what I find. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. It's wonderful to hear that most people are not so too ideological, but just
there are some, don't get me wrong, all right, but they outweigh the good. If you watch them on the media, if you see people on TV in America, you have all of this hardcore people on the right wing right now taking away transgender health care. In the state of Florida, you have Governor DeSantis removing transgender health care for people, but overall people are fighting back. People are overall good. When I come into a university and I share a little bit about myself, I do a workshop, I teach people about terminology, I teach people about microaggressions. More people are accepting than there are not. I've only ever had a few negative reactions around the world, believe it or not. I've spoken now roughly 2,000 times in 28 different countries, and I've only had a couple negative reactions. That ain't bad, is it?
It's not. No, it's not. It's pretty good. I think. How effective do you think this education is in engaging people to support our community?
I think it is incredibly effective. Okay. Everybody has a different way. We went to this conference last night. Okay. We did this conference and everybody, what was there? 250, 260 people there, right? It was live streamed. Everybody in that audience had a different story, a different journey, a different life, a different identity. Okay. And if we can share that with people, this is what makes the world beautiful, is diversity. So once, if you go to a place and you think, I want to tell you, for instance, I walked into a university, I think it was University of Fort Hare in South Africa. Okay. And I walk in and there's about 500-600 students, had 3 big screens on the thing. And the professor says, we have a transgender woman that lives in England that's coming from America, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself. 500-600 students started laughing. Okay, literally. I went in there and gave a presentation, roughly an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and a half. Half the students stood for an applause, and about 300 of them were queued up to ask me a one-on-one, to ask me a personal question. Constantly said, you changed my mind. I did not know this. I had no idea. I thought this was a choice. But when you share your story with your viewers, when I share my story with different people in wherever it is, this is what breaks us down. This is not a choice. This is who we are. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
You know?
Oh, but because that's also my story, obviously. So, what? Yesterday you gave. It was a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
It wasn't an hour and a half long.
It was 7 minutes, and we had 2 or 3 minutes of hiccups with the PowerPoint. So I just said the hell of it.
Reset viewers are used to some hiccups.
Yeah,
and they're very accepting about it. For what I'm thankful. Well, what else do you speak about?
I do. What happened is, I mean, I told you a little bit about my story, but after my court case that I told you about in 2013.
Yes, okay. This was a court case in which you lost parental privileges. Yeah,
a little bit about my story. I'll do a quick brief down. Is I was one of those transgender people that knew at a very, very young age, at the age of maybe 3-4 years old. But I was born in 1965 in California, had no idea, no understanding. So I lived the fake life. I played boys' sports. I was pushing the boys' sports by my parents. I did things as coping mechanisms. I turned to alcohol and drugs and all this kind of stuff. And I played football, soccer, right? It was a coping mechanism. Whatever I did, I obsessed with. And it became really, really good, And then when I was 17 years old, I've always been attracted to men, you know what I mean, when I was younger. But it was like I said, it was... when I was 17 years old, I met a young girl. She was 15. And I started a friendship with her, and I started a relationship with her. And I came out to her after being together for 6 months, and she accepted me, in 1982, just before we knew the term transgender. And she accepted me. We spent 4 years together. I proposed to her. Maybe one day these feelings will go away. I have no idea. And then Christmas of 1985, we were on our way home from work, and a drunk driver hit us and killed her. Okay. So I turned to drugs and alcohol. And about a year and a half later, I came out to my parents, who had always known that I was transgender. And it turns out that they had planned on transitioning when I was 5 years old. And they took me to a world famous psychologist at UCLA named Dr. John Money. And he convinced them, Jeff is a boy, immerse him in sports, it'll cure him. So my parents took the advice of the very best doctor in the world. And so they immersed me in sports and did that. So I came out to my parents, but in 1987, there was not a lot of literature. So I went through a few years, yes, no. And then I met another young lady. And before I was out with my sexuality, I still wasn't out to the world with my gender. And I came out to this young lady, and we started a friendship. We started a relationship. I ended up with 3 children. Divorced, and went through a nasty 3-year child custody battle. And I was given custody of all 3 boys, full legal physical custody. She was in a car accident. I let her back in the house to help support her, put her through medical school, and we made arrangements for me to start my transition. She said, I'll help you. and we started working together. The time came, she took the kids to Texas while I stayed behind in California, started doing my transition. We worked together. Everything was going fantastic. And then she ended up filing a lawsuit with the state of Texas to remove my parental rights to my youngest child, who was 12 years old at the time. Went into court, and the judge ordered me or go to jail to have a psychiatric evaluation done by a right-wing theology professor. He came back and said I was the better parent, and the judge would not allow it in the courtroom. And in June of 2013, a judge in Dallas, Texas, stripped all of my parental rights to my youngest child. On Christmas Eve, I received a letter from the court. The same judge had taken my name off my child's birth certificate for being transgender. And it's the first and only time in U.S. history. So my case went all the way to the Department of Justice, and they said there's not much you can do about it, but use your story to educate people. And it turned me into the activist I'm at today. So I started speaking about it at local community colleges, and it grew to UCLA, UC Irvine, USC, then to Harvard, to Stanford, to Yale, University of Pennsylvania. And then it came to England and started traveling the world. And it just grew and it grew. And I started off telling my story, but then it went into workshops. I trained the National Health Service in England. I've trained police departments. I've worked with police departments in the country of Cyprus. I teach professors about this. I train psychologists in South Africa. I do medical, not medical, but kind of medical. I'm not a PhD, but I teach people about terminology, about microaggressions, about how to be accepting to people of us in our community, to stop misgendering and that type of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And so this is what it is, just turned me into an activist, and that's what I do now, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I mean, I came in the night before last. We spoke last night. I'm here for a couple of days. And on Saturday, I fly to Spain. I'm at the University of Barcelona on Monday. Tuesday, I fly to Croatia. I'm at the University of Zagreb in Croatia. Then I'm maybe going to Switzerland, to Turkey, Slovenia, and it's just like that all over the world. It's crazy, huh?
Yes. That's, wow. Like in the book by Julius Verne.
I'm sorry?
Like in the book by Julius Verne. The world in 80 days.
Yeah.
So, and do you have contact with your children today?
Just my eldest. My eldest son has been my biggest number one ally. During the court battle, he contacted his mom and said, "Can I come and see my brothers on Christmas?" And she actually texted him back and said, "You're never allowed in my household again." Okay. Because he supported his dad. Right. And so during the court battle, my eldest son was very, very supportive of me until the court battle happened. And then he turned sides. Okay. He was living with his mom. He hasn't even spoken to his brother, in which they were the very, very best of friends. And this is the negative mental poisoning that she has done to my children. I literally had 2 psychiatric evaluations. She requested it, and both of them came in my behalf, that I'm the better parent, and the judge wouldn't let them in. You know what I mean? It's crazy. But this is what's going on in the world right now. But again, if we can educate the next doctors, I do a lot of law schools, right? The next Supreme Court justices in America, I come here to Poland. Exactly. This is where we're going to make a difference. Sooner or later, 1, 2, 5 of those people, if we're in an audience, last night was a big LGBT audience, but if I'm in a university, at the University of Warsaw, that's what started me in Poland. I do stuff in Gdansk. I can't pronounce the names of some of these places, so I do apologize. Wrocław. Yeah. I was just there just recently. And if I can educate these students, this is where we're making a difference. Does that make sense? You do it with your television. I do it with students, with businesses, with corporations, with hospitals. Everybody has their different niche. Some people do it with writing. Some people do it with acting. Some people do it with singing. Everybody has a certain way. This is what I do. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
And we're all activists. You coming up here and doing this, you're a huge activist. Okay. This is how you're helping the world understand who we are. Does it make sense? You know, I ramble a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, I saw the saying on the internet that in the harsh, homophobic or transphobic world, just going out of the house, just living your life is activism.
Yeah,
So,
it really, really is, you know, and living our true gender. But I remember for years, I didn't transition until 45 years old, right? Every day waking up and looking in the mirror, living life as a man, I was suicidal. I would have ulcers younger. I turned to drugs. I turned to alcohol. And finally, when I started living my true gender, people would point at me and laugh at me and make fun of me. But the thought of suicide never, ever entered my mind again. It was just going to take some time before I started living more comfortably, before I learned how to walk. I mean, when you transition later in life, it's more difficult. We have that male testosterone poisoning. And if you're born female, I live in as a male, you have that different, you're wearing binders, you have a softer voice. So until the hormones start working, until you start learning how to walk, your hand movements, your vocal patterns, it takes some time, you know. But again, yes, I haven't seen my child. Yes, I would have loved to have done things a little bit differently, but I am now comfortable. I am now me. I am now who I am, who I'm supposed to be. Does that make sense?
yes,
You feel the same.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, I am. I also transitioned. I was a bit younger than you, but still already an adult. And my biggest fear, waking up, looking in the mirror, the first time of the day, was that one day I might go bald, and it was panic that greeted me every day in the morning. So until I finally accepted myself for who I am.
Yeah. How old were you when you transitioned?
I was 25.
Good for you. Yeah. How about your family support, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, it's I hadn't had much support growing up, but when I came out, it was a whole process where obviously I started transitioning a few years before I came out, and also the hormone signs from taking hormones started showing up, obviously, but also my whole expression started change. I started to dress differently, although now not to my old acquaintances, but I started also going out as a girl.
Yeah.
So and when I started, I couldn't stop. So I just chose for the meetings that I was in the other social role. I started choosing female clothes, but which could pass as extravagant male ones. And I obviously didn't. I totally also looked like a girl, but I felt fine, and I felt safe. Yes, it was. So when I finally came out to my mother, she was like, okay, for a year, now for about a year, me and my husband see that something is going on with you, and we were wondering what. that a day will come when you will come and say, "Mama, I want to talk about something." So she was somewhat prepared for a talk. She was still in a big shock.
Yeah.
But it changed her mind about many things about that consider LGBTQ
Community.
people.
Yeah.
And
usually that's what happens. I have a very good friend of mine named Debbie Jackson, and Debbie is the mother of a young trans kid, right? Made the front cover. If you remember, I don't even know how many years ago, it was 6-7 years ago, the front cover of National Geographic, where you had a pink-haired Avery Jackson on the front cover. That's Debbie. Debbie is that child's mother, right?
Oh.
So Debbie, prior to that, I know Debbie and Tom, her husband, and before that child, before that child came out, Debbie and Tom were hardcore right-wing, Bible-thumping conservatives. But now when this child came out, Debbie is one of the biggest activists in the United States right now on child and children, you know what I mean? So it really helps it. So when it hits home, it does help sometimes, you know? And you're lucky. Sometimes people get kicked out of the house, and this is what we need to stop. But overall, there are a lot of people that are more open and accepting. And this is what I have found. Different parts of the world, right? You know, I was just invited to go to Pakistan. It's a Muslim country.
Well, they have just a different culture. And the tradition of third gender. So
it is interesting, you know, and it's just different areas, different things, different cultures. I spent 3 weeks in India. They have the Hijra community there, and you know, I loved India, but it was the poverty I hated seeing in India, because you have the caste system there, and that's another complex situation just on its own, you know. But no, overall, like I said, you know, your mom is supportive of you. My dad never saw me transition because he had passed away a long time ago, but my mom's supportive. My eldest son, Jeffrey, is supportive. I have support from all my friends. I still have a huge amount of the same friends. You know, I have more friends now than I ever had as Jeff, but it's literally amazing the amount of people that stood by my side, you know. One of my brothers didn't, and that's okay. The hell with him. You know what I mean? But I don't look at it. Ping.
Yeah, I know. Most of the people I knew disappeared from my life.
Oh, really?
But my family wasn't as very accepting. My close family and my further family. So that was very helpful. I renewed some older friendships after the transition. I got great new ones.
That's what I have found is I have some incredible friends all over the world, from South Africa to Japan to whatever, and I have you now as my friend. You know what I mean? So I made friends with, how do you say her name? Kaya,
yes.
You know.
So last night the star of the evening, the musical star, artist performing was Kaya. And you made friends. You just said you're going to out for dinner.
So she's super, super nice. I mean, she's just like, you know, I never met her, and I don't know Polish music, and we just became instant friends. I mean, she's just adorable. I mean, beautiful. But I get confused sometimes with the accent. I thought it was Kaya, but I heard somebody saying Kasia, and I don't know if it was a different. That's a Polish accent, or
No. Kaya is her stage name.
Yeah.
And Kasia is her formal name.
Okay, so that's why I asked you if I misunderstood.
But everybody knows her by Kaya. So.
Yeah, I know she's pretty popular here,
Yes, she is, and she's got a great voice. It's not just she's popular; she's so talented. She's such a great artist, such a great singer.
Yeah, we're talking about collaborating some work together.
Oh, really?
To do for the transgender community. Oh. That'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. It would be outstanding.
So we're going to talk about it tomorrow.
Oh, great. I hope you do.
Yeah, like I said, she's busy, I'm busy, but I'm in Poland quite often. I do love Poland. I do really, really. I love it's got a horrible history of World War II. My parents grew up in England, and that's why I'm a dual citizen of England. And I moved back to the UK. I do live in England, but when I'm here, I love to go and learn. I read books, just like we were just talking to your book. I hear, the uprising, the Warsaw Uprising. I want to learn, and I go visit some of the museums. And I don't know how many times I've been to Poland and to Warsaw in different parts of the country, but I'm in love with the people, and you guys are so beautiful. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, I'm going to continue doing some more work here. We made a lot of connections last night at the event, and we got some corporate talks. We got some university talks coming up. I connected with the English embassy, and Kaya, and so maybe you guys will see me around, and yeah, not on billboards. I'm not popular like that. I'm popular in the universities, you know what I mean, in that kind of stuff. But that's where my specialty lies, and so. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Do you? You travel so much. Do you find time to just be at home and do stuff?
I try. I work a lot. Okay, I really. The year prior to the pandemic, I had just moved to the UK, and I had literally spent 320 nights. I think it was 2019 or 2020, 2019. I had spent roughly 320 nights in hotel rooms. That's how much out of 365, I travel a great deal. I've now spoken in 28 countries. I've traveled over 1 million miles. I have a problem is I cannot sleep on an airplane. So I'll fly 16 hours from Los Angeles to Dubai. I'll sit in the airport for a few hours, and I'll fly to Johannesburg, and you know what I mean? And it's awful. So I read a lot, and that's why I was asking him if he had any good books. But one of them.
I once was in New York, so I flew for 9 hours, but I just went to sleep at the start of it and woke up at the end.
I can't do it, And one of the things that I do, it's my new hobby, is like I said, I travel the world and I talk to universities and I talk to different businesses and stuff like that. But what happened, then the pandemic hit and it shut down all my presentations, okay? So we just went completely cold. And remember when it happened, okay, tomorrow we're going to be back on the road. And the next day we're going to be back. We didn't know, another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And it just grew on for roughly 2.5 years. So in the beginning, then I would get saying, okay, let's do a Zoom came out. And we said, let's do some online presentations. Then Microsoft. And I didn't want to just do a presentation and being on the corner like this. So I said, okay, let's experiment. And I bought a screen to do and a projector. I had one of those little cameras, those little over the head cameras, and I did that. but it was awful, right? Because it had me dark. And then so we went and I bought a 63-inch television, and I have a full studio in my living room right now, so I can do online presentations no matter what time of the day. And that's what started me, kept on going, and started just really, really doing a lot of outreach. And I can do a lot of corporate talks like that. And it's not just me in the bottom corner. I was able to continue doing that type of stuff. Does that make sense? But I forgot what I was getting at. You asked me something.
Yeah, I asked you what do you like to do in your free time?
That's what I started up. Yes,
apparently.
that's what it started off. Then what happened is I needed a new camera. Okay, and that's what led to that conversation. And I went with a Canon 80D. Okay, as you have the a Panasonic here, and I went with a Canon digital camera. Okay, yeah. And then what happened was, and then I started messing around. I said, that camera's too nice to be sitting there as a film camera, right? So I went and bought another one, and I took my camera Canon, and now when I go to the places, I go to photography, right? So that's my hobby. So when I just spent 5 weeks in South Africa, and I take my camera and I go shoot, I have video, right, of me wrestling with white lions. White lions, I'm literally wrestling, right? You go see the peacocks, you go see the zebras, you see the giraffes. We were driving along this highway and we had to stop because the giraffe wouldn't get out of the road. So if I come here to Poland, I go to Old Town and I go take the pictures of the buildings, and I love that stuff. I love unique photography. I was in Gdansk, and you got the old buildings, the water, and it's really, really pretty.
Gdansk is so beautiful.
Yeah.
The first time I was there, I just fell in love.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that, wow, this Gdansk old town, at every corner somebody had to be murdered sometime.
Yeah, it really is. You go to Old Town State. See, I got the stone from Gdansk, it's the
amber.
The amber, and so like Jurassic Park, I wanted the thing in there. But that to me is just a little remembrance. And I've been to I've been to Gdansk a number of times. We've done some talks down there, and but it's really, really interesting, but this is my thing. So now when I travel, I take my camera with me, and tomorrow morning I have a little bit slow of a schedule. I'm going to go probably to Old Town and do some photography. I have a presentation to give at 3 a.m. to a university in the United States, online. And then, so I'll do that. And then when I go to Barcelona on Saturday, I can go do a little photography on the beaches and stuff like that. And then Croatia and Switzerland, you know what I mean? This is my new hobby. That's my new escape now, is photography. Does that make sense to you?
It does. I'm a photographer myself.
Are you?
Yeah, so like I told you, by education and trade, I'm a visual artist.
Yeah.
And I'm doing interviews. Just because I am, because I wanted to, so yeah, I'm also really into photography.
I'm probably not as good as you are, but I go to if I go to Slovenia, the professor that brings me into Slovenia, he takes me to the foothills of the Alps. We go and the lakes are just pure green and just beautiful. And so I'll do that in a couple of weeks. And like again, in South Africa, it was just literally unbelievable on how much stuff you can photograph in South Africa,
I can only imagine.
I was at the professor that brought me into Fort Hare. I stayed at, she has a house, she has her husband and a couple of kids. She has a grandma's house in the place, right? And literally I come walking out it and there's monkeys all over the trees. This is in her backyard. I'm sitting there talking to her husband. Suddenly he goes running outside and starts screaming, get out of here, get out of here. And this monkey about this size is trying to get in the house. Where else in the world?
Yes, like you said, you do presentations at universities, but also at corporate events. And yesterday was a pretty corporate event because we also have other Rainbow Gala. That is organized by activists, by rainbow organizations, and there are also awards, the crowns of equality.
Yeah.
Although it's recognizing us and also other people for doing things for us. But this yesterday's event was different. It was recognizing corporations for mostly for doing things for our rainbow community. How important is it that places of work see that minorities have additional needs and additional challenges, and that they just can be seen and can feel safe?
I think it's super critical. In corporations, there were some pretty big ones last night. If you saw the big board,
Microsoft, Google,
JP
BNP
Morgan,
Paribas,
John Deere tractors, Accenture. I've been doing a lot of work with Accenture over the years. That's what brought me to Poland. Besides University of Warsaw, but I started doing that. But corporations are looking at it saying it's better for business when we're open and accepting. You have a lot of intelligent and incredible talent in the LGBT community, but if we discriminate against people in our community because we don't identify as the gender we're born, or if two men want to be in a relationship, we're not going to give that person a job because they're gay or they're lesbian or they're bisexual, that's going to be an issue. So corporations have learned that it is better and more convenient for them to be more open and accepting. For instance, I'll tell you a personal story, right? Is in about 2013, when the judge stripped my parental rights, one of my coping mechanisms, I used to own a clothing boutique. When I transitioned, I owned a clothing boutique in California called Jessica's Closet. What a cool name, huh? Right? It was a used clothing boutique in Grover Beach, California, Pismo Beach. It was right near the ocean. And I used to love to go to other shops to look at clothing. I love clothing, right? Love clothing. And it was a Friday evening. It was a few days after the judge stripped my parental rights. I was really upset. I was down. And I took a walk to a place called Marshall's. And it's kind of like TK Maxx, right? And I go in there and I'm wondering, most of the people in there knew me because I enjoy this, right? They sell a clothing called Free People, and it's just something I enjoy doing. So I grab a few items and I go to the dressing room. And the young lady behind the counter, she wasn't that young. She looks at me, she goes, "Well, you'll have to use the men's dressing room." And I said, "Excuse me?" She goes, "Well, you know." And I swore at her. I threw something at her and I grabbed the ticket and I went in there and I literally was just shaking. I was so upset. I didn't try on the clothing, came back, threw the clothes at her, swore at her, and walked out. And this is, like I said, a few days after they took my child from me. I walk outside, I'm going to the car, and the manager caught wind of it. Okay. She came running out there and chased me out there. And I sat out there, just told her what had happened. Turned out that this lady, one of the coworkers, had told her I was transgender. She took it upon herself. That company, Marshall's, used that experience to train the whole Western United States on transgender health, transgender issues, so that when we go into a dressing room, we're not going to get kicked out. It made a difference. It made that better. They fired that lady. She did it out of spite. She had no idea I was transgender, right? But somebody told her, so that was her way of getting back at me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. That was her religious beliefs or whatever. So corporations have found it better and more useful to be more open and accepting. And this is where it comes from, just that type of situation. More inclusive, more diverse workforce, you're going to have a better company. And so, like you said last night, these corporations. I work with a lot of business schools and university, like Indiana University. I do a lot of their stuff. And so when I go to different corporations, like I said here, I've done a lot of stuff for Google, JP Morgan, Accenture, Hewlett Packard, NatWest. I've done a lot of Skanska, a lot of these different giant corporations here in Eastern Europe. And I've been doing a lot of that type of stuff, training. It makes their companies more accepting. It helps them understand that we're just normal, everyday people. Like I said, so I have blonde hair. I like Staffordshire Pit Bull Terriers. I love Mini Coopers. This is just a description of who we are. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
In this way, we can break down those barriers and to make the world a more open and accepting place. I ramble, sorry.
No, it's just such a beautiful vision. Many companies here are still yet to learn that stuff.
Around the world, not just here.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? But they are moving on the better way. They really, really are moving towards the better behaving,
Yes, I feel that like I said, although many are yet to do stuff about their way of coping with LGBTQ employees. Many also have found their ways. Are bettering themselves, are improving their standards. And I feel that in many places, people just feel more at home than coming into the office than coming out of it back into the world surrounding them. How much do you think this change in business can influence change in politics?
I think it can do a huge amount because businesses control politics, don't they? You know what I'm saying? They kind of control the money, financial things, and you see it in America, you see it in the UK, you saw it in the state of Florida, in the United States. You had Governor DeSantis. If you know anything about United States politics, right? You have Florida. You have Governor DeSantis come in and says, don't say gay bill. And what did Disney come in and say? F you, we're not going to abide by it. He went after Disney, but they pushed him back. Disney is the biggest employer in the state of Florida. And they pushed back and says, you're not going to tell us that we can't do this kind of stuff. They push back. These are the people that fund these politicians. So if they want to be more inclusive, I think more and more people are becoming. Look how many ambassadors we had there last night.
Yes, we had Mark Brzeziński, who not only is just U.S. ambassador, he's son to modern Polish hero. So Zbigniew Brzeziński, who was who came from Poland and was in American administration.
Yeah. I wanted to meet him last night, but he was on with the Secret Service, so and I'm a danger. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Pesky Secret Service.
No, he mentioned me during his presentation. When he mentioned something, I said it was like,
Yes, he was very, very engaging. He was very passionate about furthering LGBTQ rights.
Equality, yeah. And the thing is he did say, talking about the Biden administration, I had a conversation with somebody this morning or last night saying, you heard me going up there and saying that I lost my parental rights. And then he comes up and says, look how good the American government's doing. But that is the Biden administration. My case happened during the Obama administration, but you still had some right wing. This is a right wing. The judge that took my child away from me was appointed by a right winger. Okay, I can't remember his name. It wasn't a president; it was a governor of Texas, and he was the one. So, but again, so we do have Biden in there. He has Levine in there now, who is I think she's had a medical. And so you do see a lot of positive change coming. You really, really do. I don't know what's going to happen in the next elections, because that's what, in America, this is what the right is running on, is anti-LGBT, especially anti-transgender. They're literally doing it. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying you're mutilating children. Nowhere in the world can you have genitalia surgery until you're 18 years old. They live in falsities. You know what I mean? Genitalia surgery.
Yeah, so in Europe, in Germany or Ireland, when you're 16, also there's this singer now,
Kim Petras.
She was first heard of when she was 14.
She had hers. There are a few,
but she's German.
There's a girl in England. She's the daughter of the director of Mermaids.
Yeah, but this is the exact age is not important. The WPATH recently admitted that it should follow not strict rules but case-to-case basis.
But you're not 10 years old doing it. You're not 12 years old. Doctor.
What's important? It's that they're fully conscious about themselves.
Yeah, and one of the things is too, which is what people don't realize, is for a vaginoplasty, okay, to transition your penis into a vagina, right? The surgeon, Dr. Bowers, was a good friend of mine, and she did my surgery. We became friends. She became my gynecologist. We just started doing some work together. And they want your penis to be full growth before they cut it and move it, because they use it. So does that make sense to you? And so they want that to grow. They don't want to do these type of surgeries on somebody young. It just doesn't work. And mentally, you don't do that to a child, right?
Exactly. Now in Poland, our right-wing government is trying to fearmonger the same way about our transgender community, and it's also not a secret that they have an American think tank thinking for them what to do in the campaign.
And it's scary. It's really scary, because you do have these people out there spreading Matt Walsh. Okay, do you know if you follow him, right? We are worse than Hitler, Stalin, Putin combined. I mean, because we're living our true gender. How are we affecting him? But he actually tweeted that we are the worst evil there is on the planet. Okay, just for us living who we are. All right, does this make sense? And studies have shown that when you let a child transition at a young age, no surgeries, let their hair grow long, their makeup, their chosen name, depression has tended to disappear. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does for me, from my experience. Okay, well, we slowly have to come to an end. So maybe for the closing, what's your advice for Polish trans community?
Live your life comfortably, okay? I could not stand looking in the mirror and seeing a man every day. Sometimes you do have to wait until you grow up and you're out of your mom and dad's house, and sometimes mom and dad are not accepting, but you have to face yourself every day in the mirror for the rest of your life. Some people are going to lose their mom and dad. Some people are going to lose people. But overall, you're going to be comfortable in your life, and it is up to you. Live truthfully. I cannot harp on that enough. It's either do or die, and truthfully, you have to live comfortably to your true self, to your true gender. Really, really do it, and don't live a lie.
Okay, so Thank you, Jessica, for
thank you for having me.
visiting me in the studio. Thank you to our viewers. I hope, yeah. Well, I hope. I know that your message will resonate in me. That our conversation will. I will think about it a lot.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know,
and yeah, just thank you again. You're such a great person, and well, such a convincing influence.
Thank you so much.
So, thank you. Goodbye. See you in a week.
Have you had a wonderful week.